Assalamu alaikum, guys. In this week and from now forward, you would be asked to write lab reports in our course. And because we want you always to be familiar with all of these and get experience, we would demonstrate for you what we expect from you. So if you look here in this page, you will find an example of a lab report. Let me scan it all for you. All right, so now what is a lab report and what should you have in order to have a good lab report? Now, in order to answer these questions, go to the model and go down to the labs, and you would see here something written guideline lab report. So open this file, and when you open it, you would see that there is a guideline guiding you and taking you step by step to how to write a good report. And it has actually an example of a lab report. So what is a lab report? When you do an experiment, you have always to communicate your result and to present it. And one way of doing this and explaining how the experiment was done and giving background and summarizing the result is through writing a lab report. So what are the components of the lab report? There are several components. Basically, you need to have a cover page with the title and your course information and the group information. Then you should have introduction, material and methods, result and discussions, conclusion, and finally references. And there are actually some certain formattings that you have to apply in order to get a very nice lab report. Now, let us go step by step. If you go down with this page, you would find this example here. And in the first cover page, you would see that you have the logo, you have university name, college name, department, the course title, and then you have lab 1, and then you write the title, and then you have the group members with their names and IDs. Of course, you are now taking the course from the College of Agriculture, so you will write here College of Agriculture, and you will write Department of Soil Water because the course is from agriculture and from our department. Here you would write actually the title and the code of our course, Introduction to Soil and Water, SWAE 2201. Then you will have lab 1, then you put the title of the lab. You would see also that you have actually page numbers, and these are very important to add because it will show the readers where he is now in the report. So what is the title? The title should be actually short and concise. For example, your first experiment with the lab report will be determination of soil texture by hydrometer. So you would write lab whatever, lab 4, for example, determination of soil texture by the hydrometer method, and so on. Then you would need actually to have an introduction. What is introduction? If you go down here, you find that you have introduction. Of course, this is a mistake, it should be here. And then you would give a brief about the diagrams that the readers need to understand your experiment. For example, if you are talking about the soil texture, then you should brief to the readers what is the soil texture, why the soil texture is important, physical properties, why it's important for the biological and the chemical properties. And since you are doing an experiment to determine the soil texture, you should also explain to the reader what are the available methods to determine the soil texture. Then you give more ideas about or proving or information about the method that you are going to use in this experiment. For example, you would talk about the hydrometer experiment. And then at the end, you need to mention actually the objective of the experiment. See here, for example, he stated, therefore, this experiment was planned to demonstrate blah, blah, blah. You have to write at the end the objective of the experiment. Of course, when you write the introduction, you would see that there are some references cited here and there, because you can use actually sources from the internet, books or whatever things, but you have to give credit to those sources that you have used. So the readers can know from where you brought this information and can go and read that book or website if he's really interested to know more information about it. That's why it's very important to write the reference, to cite the reference in the text. Next, we go to talk about the second section, which is material and method. The material and method describes actually how the experiment was done. So you should demonstrate what instrument you have used there. You should also show the calculations if you have done any calculations, the equation that you use, and sometimes you need to summarize it into a flow chart, something like this. Sometimes you can have the method in a flow chart. Okay, you did this is the first step, second step, third step, and then and so on and so on. Why this is important? Because it gives the reader an idea on how the experiment was conducted, and therefore he would be able to understand it very well, and also he will be able to repeat the experiment if he is interested to repeat the experiment. As you can see here, the material method, you can use pictures to demonstrate, you can show the steps that you have, and so on. The next step is actually the result and discussion, which is considered the most important section. And here you have actually to bring the cream of your results, the cream of the experiment. You have here to actually explain your findings and also demonstrate your findings with tables and figures and so on. As you will see here, we use here tables, you can use figures and so on. You choose one of them. Of course, you don't replicate the same information in table and then you draw figure. No, you should actually select what would be the best type of table or figures that you would use in order to present your data. And then, of course, you have to discuss your findings and you have to refer to that text. For example, the statement here talks about something and then he referred, see figure 3A and B. You have to indicate for the readers which figure is talking about this part or which table is talking about this part. The next section will be the conclusion. And the conclusion, you have actually to do two things. First of all, you have to remind the reader with the objective of the experiment, and then you summarize the main finding. You say that we found blah, 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 and so on, and why these are important. And finally, you put the references, and the references, you have to put it in a consistent way. You have, for example, to use APA style. And if you go to this format, you can find here format, and it can even tell you about the way how you should write the reference. And it demonstrates for you some examples that you can use in order to cite a reference. You can search also. And what else you need to do with the reference, that these references should be actually sorted alphabetically. It starts, for example, from A to Z. You have to sort it alphabetically. And don't forget the page number. That's all in short. So thanks.